Hi, I'm Jennifer Owens,
And I'm Tim Owens.
and we are the Owens Group. And welcome to the Psychology of Everyday Success. Today, we want to focus on managing anxiety, but before we get started, we want to say that even though we're credentialed counselors with many years of experience, the information we're going to share today is for educational purposes only, and it's not a substitute for behavioral health counseling.
Right. We don't want to give anybody the wrong impression.
hmm So, Tim, what is anxiety?
Wow, that's a great question, Jen. So anxiety is really an interesting topic, I think, because so many people experience anxiety in so many different ways. But essentially what it boils down to, it's a fear-based emotion that originates within the fear center of the brain, which we call the amygdala. And the amygdala is designed to sort of serve as an alarm for us, right? So when we experience something that could really be uh, fearful for us, a life-threatening kind of situation, we experience this fight, flight, or freeze process. Our body goes into that motion, and ultimately, it facilitates us our being ready to deal with whatever threat there is. So let's say you're walking through the
Yes.
woods and there's a bear in the woods, right?
hmm
Well, you want your amygdala to kick in. You want that alarm system to say, wait a minute, there's
Yes.
a problem here because I might have to fight this bear. I may have to
hmm
run from this bear, or I may have to kind of freeze and play like I'm dead,
Yes.
for a long period of time. So the point is that's what it does for us. The problem comes when I
hmm
have difficulty shutting that alarm system off, right?
Yes.
And so I can not only perceive the bear, but I can also perceive, let's say, the bill collector, right? He's calling me and saying, "Hey, listen, you owe me money," or
Yes.
a problem with my kid's teacher at school, is calling
hmm
me, or I'm having an issue with my mate, right? So all of
hmm
that sends me into fight, flight, or freeze, and
Yes.
sometimes we have difficulty shutting that off, and
hmm
that leads then to symptoms of anxiety. So Jen, why don't you talk a little bit about what the symptoms are of anxiety?
Okay. So one of the symptoms is irritability, like you just don't want to be bothered by other people, or you feel
Absolutely.
like, I'm just so not wanting to be around people. Sometimes that can be introvertism, but other times it can really be that you're irritable and you're in a bad mood, and with that comes an attitude. And
Sure.
inability to focus and inability to relax are also common.
Mm,
Just can't get down, always feeling like you're keyed up, having difficulty sleeping at night, a lot of restlessness. It could be stomach aches, a loss of appetite, or just mindfully overeating. Like you constantly having to have something in your mouth
mm,
and eat often. So that can be a big one. The misuse of alcohol and drugs, that's also another issue that might come up. Finding that as a way to cope with your problem or kind of getting lost in that.
mm,
Headaches are very common with worry, hyperventilating, difficulty breathing, even a tightness in the chest sometimes, feeling as though you're having a heart attack. So those can be some symptoms right before you have a panic attack. What
mm.
causes anxiety?
Yeah. What
So
the
there are several things sometimes that cause anxiety to happen. It can be like irrational thoughts sometimes that you might have, things that you really think that are happening that people don't even have a clue or aren't even mindful of the issue going on in the first place. But you've conjured them up in your brain as, wow, this is something that's really about to happen, or this person is after me.
mm,
It could be triggers sometimes from past trauma. It could be that you're worried about something, and it's very consistent and the worry won't go away.
mm,
It could be that you're also burying emotions instead of really processing them or having anyone to vent with. So you kind of pretend they're not really there. And sometimes it's really not even a pretense. It's like it's just so deep, you're
mm.
not even aware that it's an issue inside of you.
Wow.
Um, there's also what conflict or stress sometimes that we feel ill-equipped to manage.
Sure.
That can really be a huge one. And a lot of times, even though we're dealing with something that's really hard, we don't always have the right coping skills for it.
Mm,
It could be isolation as well. And so isolation can really take you into anxiety.
That's
I remember a time for me, and I'm going to give you an example when it could have been about 20 years ago. I was very depressed. I was in an unhappy marriage, and I really had a big challenge with depression. I was very depressed for about 10 years. I was getting up and going to work, and I was a school social worker at the time. So I was able to get up and go to work sometimes, but most of the time when I come home, I crash and burn. I just go to sleep for the rest of the evening, get up and start the next day. I might eat a little bit, but I really didn't have an appetite, but I was very isolated. I had two friends that kind of helped me through it, but other than that, I would isolate all the time. And I remember one time really having a panic attack.
Mm,
And I was just laying down, guys, doing nothing. But that panic attack still came.
mm,
And it just got to a point where my brain couldn't really take the overwhelm, the anxiety, the emotion of feeling depressed and everything else. And I really had to really start breathing, doing some breathing exercises to calm myself down. So I had a panic attack. It was just that one time. Thank God it never happened again. But it was definitely because I was depressed. So sometimes these symptoms overlap with depressive symptoms and they kind of look alike.
sure.
Tim, what do you think are some solutions for anxiety and dealing with it?
Yeah, absolutely. You make a really good point in talking about because depression, because often we think about depression as and anxiety as having being two sides of the same coin. So they
Hmm.
kind of track along with each other. Often people who experience depression experience anxiety and vice versa.
Hmm.
So solutions, we want to talk about solutions. How do you deal with this? How do you manage the anxiety?
Yeah.
Going to give you kind of three things you can think about. So one
Okay.
is relaxation and meditation.
Oh, yeah.
Uh, I know sometimes we make fun of it, but it's it's kind of like
It's
meditation.
not
But
always like that.
it's but what's true is actually
Mm.
if you spend some time doing what we call systematic relaxation, working
Yes.
through relaxing systematically every part of your body, and then your brain will actually follow because obviously there's a connection between the body and the brain,
I
right?
think you've done that with me before. You've kind
Absolutely,
of
yeah.
systematically relaxed me. Is that the one where you take me through exercises and tell me to relax my feet and stretch them, and then you
Uh,
go from feet all the way back up to my head?
Oh, nine, absolutely.
Yeah,
And that what that does is it helps to facilitate relaxation in the body first and then in the mind after that.
it works.
And now what's true is that when you start working through that process, when you start exercising that or practicing that, initially you're not going to be very good at it. It
Hmm.
takes a while, right? Just like anything else, you have to practice it in order to become good at it. But
Right.
eventually you get to the place where it can really help you to access what we call the parasympathetic nervous system. So
Hmm.
you have two sides to your nervous system, if you will. There is what we call the sympathetic nervous system, which is what if you were a car, the sympathetic nervous system is the accelerator. It makes you go faster, right?
Okay.
And the parasympathetic nervous system is the brake system, right? It helps you to
Okay.
slow down, relax, be at peace, be at ease.
Okay.
Experience calm. So if you're not sure as to how to go about doing that, there are various. You can go ahead and Google relaxation and meditation videos,
Hmm.
and they help you to work through all of that. There's some very good ones out there. Just find one that
Okay.
works for you. Secondly, I want to talk a little bit about talk therapy and or medication. Uh,
Okay.
as we said, we're counselors, we're therapists, and so we believe deeply in talk therapy. Cognitive behavioral therapy,
Hmm.
is an excellent way to approach anxiety. But here's the thing: we want you to find someone who practices that in your area, who's
Hmm.
a good counselor, a good social worker, and help and get with them and spend some time talking to them. What happens is that as we talk about what's really
Hmm.
going on in our minds,
Hmm.
right, and in our heads, it unburdens us,
It
right?
sure does.
And it gives us a sense that we're not in it alone, that we're not, like Jen said, isolated, but that we have
Hmm.
people who are there with us, who are concerned about us, And that in and of itself is therapeutic. It facilitates that. Now let's talk about medication just briefly.
Tim, can I just say one thing? I've gone through counseling and it's really good. It really does help.
Mhm.
I've they often recommend that when counselors are in therapy that they help others and
Sure.
give them advice.
So have I. Absolutely. There's no shame. There's nothing to be ashamed of about seeing a counselor and about talking about your issues and problems. That's absolutely critical to do. I want to talk a little bit about medication. So
Hmm.
at times when things are pretty really you're having a real difficulty, you're really struggling,
Hmm.
it might be important to actually get some medication, right? So
Yeah.
see a psychiatrist who could actually prescribe psychotropic medication for you that might help you on a temporary basis with your
Yes.
anxiety. We don't want to think about medication from the perspective of, you know what, I'm going to be on this for the rest of my life and it's going to help
Hmm.
me, because really what will happen is your body will develop what we call a tolerance for the medication, and it will eventually on its own start to not work as well. So what you want to do is develop those skills, those practices that facilitate medicate relaxation.
Yes, you do.
Absolutely. So our time is going short, but I want to talk a little bit real quickly about self-talk. So
Hmm.
self-talk is really important in the sense that people say that you're crazy if you talk to yourself. I say you're crazy if you don't talk to yourself, right? What might be important to do is to say to yourself, ask yourself the question. So this alarm that's going off in my head, is it
Hmm.
real? Or is it imagined? Is there
Yeah.
a bear that or a real threat to me right now in this moment, or is it something that I think might happen down the road? Most of the problems that we encounter, some of the challenges that we deal with, and the things that make us anxious and nervous and depressed, never actually even happen.
Hmm.
Majority of them, I mean, like over 90%. So if you can stay present in this moment and notice that, look, I'm safe. I'm okay. I'm safe, and I'm grateful for the blessings that I have right now in my life.
Hmm.
And I'm just going to do the next right thing.
Yeah.
Not trying to think 5, 10 steps, 100 steps down the road, or 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 5 weeks into the future. I'm just going to be present and notice that I'm okay. I'm doing well. Yes.
Hmm.
So those are some things to consider. Our time is running short, so just wanted to remind you that this is not counseling. This is just for educational purposes only. And
Yes.
if you want more information, uh, contact us. We'll certainly try to help you to get to somebody who might be able to be helpful for you.
Hmm.
So this is Tim and Jennifer Owens.
Yes.
God bless,
Have a
and
good one.
be well, and we'll see you next time.
Bye bye.